I'm John. Welcome back to Mr. G's Workbench and the final installment of the Panda Hobbies 9K330 Tor build review. Got that one this time. Today we're gonna take the completed model we've got. We're gonna throw some paint on it. It's gonna be a little bit more elegant than that. We're gonna do some paint work on it, and then we'll sit back and we'll take a look at the finished product and we'll evaluate the kit overall. So before we begin, as always, my thanks to Jim over at Kitmaker for providing the kit we've been reviewing for the last couple of episodes. And you'll find a link below in the description to the Kitmaker family of websites. They're really good websites. I hope you'll take a look at them if you haven't already. And before we get started, standard YouTube fare. If you're not subscribed to my channel, I hope if you enjoy this video, you'll consider subscribing. Just reach down there, hit the subscribe, hit the bell, and you'll be notified every time I put out a new video. So let's go hit the paint booth. We'll start out with a coat of primer on the Tor, and then we'll see where we go from there. Primer's on and the first coat of paint is on. It's the Ammo by MIG Protective NC 1200 is what the color is called. I'll tell you the truth, when I was putting it on, it looked very pale. I was a little concerned about it, even over the black. But I think it dried a little darker than it was before. You can see I kind of wanted a slightly mottled finish because we've got plenty more to do on this. Here's the turret. I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to go back at the end. I'm going to paint this gray just to kind of set it off a little from the rest of it. Just everything else will be green. So those are done. The wheels are over in the paint booth. They're painted rubber and tires from Ammo as well. I'm going to paint the green parts of the wheels with circle template. I think that was the easier way to go. Referencing a night shift video that I'm going to put a card up for here. He recently built and painted, I think it's a BMR 3, but I'm trying to take the same approach he did on the paint. He black based the primer. He went in with the initial coat of paint straight out of the bottle. The black helps to give it a little bit of contrast. And the next step is going to be diluting that initial green with 30% dark yellow. I'll give you a quick summary of what I've done here. I'll give a quick recap based on the night shift video, how he did his paint and how I tried to emulate him. I went and did a second coat where I cut the protective NC 1200 with some dark yellow, about 20% dark yellow, 80% green. I applied that as a highlight in all of the panels and open areas. After that, I applied a shadow coat. I don't know what Night Shift called it, but it was pretty much, he was saying it was an airbrushed pin wash. And that was 50% flat black and 50% red-brown, both Tamiya colors. Obviously, the black was their XF1. The red-brown was their XF64. So I took that, mixed it 50-50, thinned it down 50% with, actually I think I thinned it down a little more, probably about 60 or 70% with Mr. Leveling Thinner so that it was easy to spray. And then I used that to spray in all the areas around panels, all these doors, all these highlights. It kind of creates forced shadows. You can definitely see it up here and around the turret. You can go sloppy with that. After you're done with that, now he had gone like 50-50 at this point, dark yellow and Russian green. I found that to be like way too yellow. So I wound up, I think I cut the protective green by, I think I split it with the dark yellow, 60 or 70% with the protective NC 1200 and 30% dark yellow. It was definitely just slightly lighter than the previous green that I had applied, and it gave me this nice mottled effect that I like. I think overall that spray-on darker color with the brown and black definitely gives it character, for a one-color finish. I also used that black and brown mix to spray the tracks. Once I had the tracks sprayed, then I knew I was ready to put them on. I looped them on. I haven't painted any of the tools on the back or the brake lights. I still have to paint the radar dish. So there's definitely going to be a wash, and there's definitely going to be the other thing that Night Shift did was he sprayed the whole thing with chipping fluid, and then he applied a dust coat, and then he was able to go back and rework that dust coat with in a chipping style. So let me sort that out, and then we'll come back and we'll discuss it. So I've applied a coat of AK's dust over the hairspray. So let's go and I'm going to take a flat brush. I'm just going to start gently pulling down. I think you should see it starts to look like streaking. Uncle Night Shift comes through again, because this actually is a great look. You just want a vehicle that looks like it's been through some dust and nobody's bothered to hose it down yet. Well, this is the way to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue. The sides will just get vertical draws of the wet brush. The tops are going to get more of a swirled effect. And then I'll show you. I think we're going to be done after that. Well, no, I'm lying because I'm still going to do a wash after that. So let me continue and then I'll show you how it looks.
Many minutes later.
Okay, so we finally finished the Tor. Here it is. It's a fairly substantial kit and I'm very happy with it. Let's talk about it. Let's take a look at the finished product. Here, I'll give you a couple of detail shots here. And very happy with the end result. Honestly, I wasn't expecting much out of a Kitty Hawk based company, especially with my experience with an older Panda hobby kit. But I think they really came through on this one. I was very happy with it. I was very impressed with the way it went together. So before I go through the kit, let me give you one more quick summary of how the paintwork went. First was a coat of black primer. Make sure we didn't have any bare spots later on when we did the actual painting, since it was already assembled for the most part. The initial coat of paint was a coat of Protective NC 1200 from Ammo by MIG. That's a modern Russian green. It sprayed on well. It was lighter than I thought it was going to be. I expected a darker green. It could be a bad color for all I know, but it went on well. And I can't complain. I also used, this is the first time I used AK's acrylic paint retarder while I was airbrushing it. Had no tip dry, no clogging issues at all. After I did that initial coat of green, I went back. I cut that Protective 1200 green with 20% Tamiya dark yellow. And I applied a mottled coat of that over the whole tank again. After that, I went in with a fine tip brush and using Ammo by MIG's Russian green base, which was a much lighter color. I went in and I touched all the grab handles and rivets, anything that was set like off the surface of the vehicle, just to hit the highlights. Following that, I sprayed the whole model with a coat of hairspray. You could use your favorite chipping solution if that's the case. That was in preparation for a layer of, I used dust from Ammo by MIG. It's a paint color. I thinned it down significantly, I think at more than 50%. So if I was a betting man, I'd say I thinned it down like 60-40 with thinner. I used Mr. Leveling Thinner. I applied a coat of dust to the whole vehicle. Then I went back with a wet paintbrush and I took the dust off of spots where it just wouldn't settle naturally, or I eased it back until I was satisfied with it. I was pretty happy with the way that worked. After that, I coated the whole vehicle with AK's Gauzy Shine Enhancer. It's my go-to gloss before I weather. Works great for me. So once I had that on, that was to facilitate. I did some mostly brown oil paint washes. The brown wash was the overall wash of choice for to kind of create a little bit more depth. Once I was satisfied with the overall look, I went back and sealed everything in with Tester's Dull Coat. Oh, and I'm not huge on weathering tanks because if I'm not going to put it in a diorama or anything, I can't see blocking up perfectly good work with mud and dust and dirt. So what I did was I took some, I have dry mud from AK. It's an acrylic product. It's thick and it has the consistency of dried mud once it dries. And then I swabbed that into the wheels and on the outsides of the tracks. And then I used it to create splatters on the front and back of the hull. I was very happy with that. Then I hit it with the dull coat. So that's where the dull coat came in. So quick breakdown of the kit itself, since this was a build review, so let me review it. Let's start with the bad stuff. The number one worst part of this kit is hands down the instructions. Between missing part numbers, the complete missing of parts in assemblies, there were places where they just didn't tell you that certain parts needed to be put on the other side of the kit. It doesn't even say like opposite. There wasn't any reference like that. That was an issue. Parts that didn't have numbers listed were an issue. Parts that were mislabeled were an issue. that was the biggest challenge, I think, in putting the instructions to use. The other bad part of the instructions was poor build sequences in places. The radar assembly, which is, you know, the focal point of the kit to me, there were problems with that. Had I not had problems with that, the radar would have been more flexible. I could have actually laid it down in the way it is for transport, but I couldn't do that because I had to glue it in place because it was loose. I had issues with the build sequence, the way it was laid out. I also managed, as I famously said earlier, to put the radar dish in upside down because the perspective of the radar assembly changed in mid-flow. So the second thing I disliked was the way that small parts and even some of the larger parts are molded onto the runners. There's a lot of unnecessary cleanup that has to be done to certain parts where the connections to the runners could have been made in out-of-the-way places. This is just an ongoing issue between Kitty Hawk and obviously Panda. Just plan your kit out better when you're laying it out on the runners. But, you know, I'm not the president of Panda or Kitty Hawk, so there we go. So moving away from what I didn't like, let's get into there's more to like than not like in this kit. So the first thing I liked was the metal track links. There were 115 track links on each side, not the 114 stated in the instructions. So that's 230 links. Out of 230 links that I assembled, I had come across 6 poorly molded ones that I didn't use. There were plenty of extras in the box. So I had more than enough and I had left over. They went together well. The pins went in easily enough. I did each run in like an hour. As opposed to like the days it took me to do the track links in Meng's Sherman. So they went on just fine. The other thing I liked was the overall look of the vehicle. I mean, it looks like it has a purpose. It's typical Russian/Soviet armored vehicle. It has a purpose and it's built for it. So the overall look is good. Aside from the poor assembly sequences, if you get it right and come up with your own sequence, like I said, you can get the radar dish to pivot and fold down just like it would for transport. The big flat radar dish on the back pivots, no issues. Other than that, I mean, it's a static kit. There's nothing else that opens or closes. For once, I'm happy to say there's a Kitty Hawk based kit that didn't have a bunch of open hatches. So I'm very happy with it. Even with the mistakes I made during assembly and the issues I had, it still came out to be, in my opinion, a great looking kit. And believe me, I'm very self-critical when I need to be. If I hadn't installed the radar dish upside down, even better. But it went together painlessly. I think I had the whole thing done in working on it an hour or two a day. I had it done in a couple of weeks. So it was good. It was a good build. I didn't use the decals, so I can't comment on them. Aside from saying that if they're anything like Kitty Hawk's other decals, I would probably make paint masks like I said I was going to do here and avoid using the decals if you can. So let me give this my own arbitrary rating. Since it's a build review, it should have a rating out of 100. I would give it a solid 80. If it wasn't for the issues I had with the build sequence and the bad instructions, this would be an easy 90% kit. But, you know, I'm going to ding it for an obvious ongoing issue I've read about online. But if you want to build it, if you think it looks good and you want to build it, I would recommend it. I would probably consider doing another one of these Panda. I know they have the Buck is the other one they have. I would consider doing it after doing this one. Let me close out by once again thanking Jim over at Kitmaker for providing this kit to me so that I could do this review. I'm grateful for it and I appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll give me a thumbs up. And if you didn't like it, feel free to give me a thumbs down. And as I always ask for no apparent reason, if you give me a thumbs down, just do me a favor, leave me a comment. I won't get pissy about it. Just tell me what you didn't like so I can do better the next time, all right? And I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel. I'm up to 450 subscribers. Thank you all again, each and every one of you. I can't thank you enough. I do it every chance I get. So until I see you all the next time, take care of yourselves and be well.